Hello, my name is Ian Stevenson and welcome to Good Morning Colonial America. So today I would like to introduce a very special guest on the current events right now in colonial America, which right now is going on after the French and Indian War. So I would like to welcome the expert on this topic, Conor.
Hi.
Nice to have you.
Hello, Ian.
So, you do have a lot of expertise in what is going on right now, correct?
Yes, I do.
So, what significance did you have in the war?
Well, I'm a colonist living in upstate New York, so a lot of the events of the war happened around where I live. I helped the British by giving them shelter and supplies, but I stayed out of the actual fighting as much as I could.
So, what was the reason, or what were the reasons for this war?
Well, England and France were already fighting in Europe, and it spread to North America where the English and the French both have colonies. The English wanted more territory in North America, as did the Native Americans.
So which side did the Indians take?
The Iroquois took the side of the British, while most other tribes, especially those in the Ohio River Valley, sided with the French.
So what was the outcome of the war?
England won the war, and treaties were signed that resulted with the French giving the English all North American land east of the Mississippi River, which I can show you about right now, by the way. So as you can see in this picture, this is America. As we know right now, the red on the right is the 13 colonies in which we live. The red on the top was British Canada before the war, and all the pink, which you can see, was French land that has been given to Britain now after the French and Indian War. The yellowish land the French gave to Spain after the war, and the orange land on the bottom, in addition to Florida, which is on the bottom right, Spain already had. When Britain acquired French Canada, there were about 80,000 people, French people living there that either had to move to Haiti, Louisiana, back to France, or just had to stay there and live under the British monarch.
Very nice, very interesting. So, what were the treaties signed that ended this war?
The two treaties that were signed that ended the war were the Treaty of Hubertusburg and the Treaty of Paris, not to be confused with any potential future treaties of Paris.
And what was the difference between these two treaties?
The Treaty of Hubertusburg ended the fighting in Europe, and the Treaty of Paris ended the fighting in America.
Nice. So what happened to these Indians that fought in the war?
Well, the Indians that sided with the French remained enemies of the British, and the British felt no sympathy when stealing their land. Even though the Iroquois fought with the British, relations will probably crumble soon after the war ends. The war has ended. The Indians are struggling to maintain their land and influence right now, but in about 50 years, they'll probably have very little land east of the Mississippi, if I had to guess, and I am an expert.
Oh, well, they don't have any land west of the Mississippi, do they, the Iroquois?
No.
Okay.
But there are other Indians there, of course.
Yeah. So,
Well, we don't really know.
So,
we don't know where that goes, but...
did the American colonists side with the British in this war?
Yeah, we pretty much had to side with the British. Those of us who didn't fight in the war still had to support the British troops.
So, what percentage of the British soldiers were American colonists?
As you can see, to the right of your television screen, or whatever you want to call how you're watching us, about 40% of the soldiers that fought on our side were American colonists, and 60% of the soldiers were British. But most of the American colonists guarded forts or were reserves.
Okay. So, you didn't really help out that much, did you?
No, we actually helped out a lot, considering that the war had nothing to do with us. We gave our supplies, shelter, and troops to the British, even though most of us didn't want to have anything to do with the war at all.
So what did the British think of the American support in this war? They had to appreciate you a lot, didn't they?
Well, the British actually didn't really appreciate our help at all. They thought that we should have given our full support to the war, despite having nothing to do with us. They also thought that we were crude and had no culture, and that we were cowards and weren't good at fighting.
So what did you think of that?
Most of us colonists agree that they are too egotistic, narcissistic, and profane. They also are way too demanding of us colonists.
So do you have any fears going forward?
Yes, we are very afraid of being pulled into another European war that has absolutely nothing to do with us.
So going back to what you said before as a result of the war, the British gained all land east of the Mississippi River. They're now able to move west, correct?
No. Actually, shortly after the war, the British issued the Royal Proclamation Act, which prevents us from moving west of the Appalachian Mountains, which I can show you guys really quickly if you're not familiar. Back to this visual that I showed you guys earlier. All this pink land is the land that the French owned, that Indians are living in, that Britain got after the war. We live here. The Appalachian Mountains are right, about here. We want to move west of there, but the British aren't letting us, which I'll tell you guys about in a minute. since there are no French living in that area anymore, or at least very few.
So, besides the Indians there, all that land is just vacant.
Pretty much, yeah.
So what prevents you from ignoring the proclamation and moving west anyway?
Well, despite all of our efforts in the war, the British deemed it necessary to keep about 10,000 soldiers in America. They prevent us from moving west.
So what else do they do?
Well, they really don't have any other purpose, other than guarding the forts, but most of them have no purpose at all, and we have to quarter them and give them food, water, and other supplies, even though we barely have enough for ourselves.
So do the English do anything else that injures you?
Yes, they raise taxes on foreign goods and other things in order to pay for the war. Also, we can only export goods to foreign countries if they go through British ports first.
So what are your main exports?
Oh wait, 1 second, I'd actually like to add something. Just to show that I'm not the only one who disagrees with all of these terrible things that the British are doing to us, such as taxing us and providing unfair restrictions. Here's a illustration of other colonists who agree with me. As you can see, they disagree very much with all of the unfair taxes and restrictions that are being enforced against us.
So, as I was saying before, what are your main exports?
Iron, lumber, animal skins, and whale bones are our main exports, but there are also many other products that we export.
So, are you able to protest against these rules and taxes?
No, not really. We still have no representation in Parliament, so they can tax us and give us all kinds of restrictions, and there's pretty much nothing we can do about it.
So, what are some of the products that you're taxed on?
We're taxed on things like, off the top of my head, Portuguese wine, which used to be duty-free, sugar, and pretty much anything else from non-British territories.
Sounds a little harsh, doesn't it? Why are you not allowed to export to other countries?
Since we are only allowed to export to the British, they can lower the prices on our goods, and since there are no competing markets, we are forced to sell to them for these low prices. This leads to us getting very little money for our goods, and leads to the British getting amazing deals.
So, why are they giving you so many taxes now?
That's a good question, Ian. Britain is in a lot of debt after the war, and they think that taxing us is a good way to raise money. They also think that doing so will have no negative consequences, which I hope to be false.
So, about the British soldiers that are stationed in America now, who's paying for them?
Our own tax, and by our, I mean the colonists, our own tax money is paying for the troops that are unfairly controlling us.
So do you think there's a solution to these unfair taxes?
I believe that if us, and as in us, of course, colonial America, if we were represented in Parliament, it would be better because we would at least have a say in everything that's going on.
So, do you think that will ever happen?
Yeah, I hope so, but I don't think it will because the British don't seem to care about our needs at all. Also, the government is giving more authority to London to control us instead of just letting us govern ourselves more.
That's too bad, isn't it? So, did the American colonists benefit in any way from the French and Indian War?
Well, we did benefit from it a little bit, yes. During the war, the British were spending a lot of money in America, which actually helped our economy a bit.
So, do you think the positives outweigh the negatives in this situation?
Absolutely not. Although our economy is helped in one way, it ends up being detrimental due to new heavy taxes and the loss of trade markets.
So, what is your overall opinion on what has happened?
Britain should have never forced us colonists into the war in the first place, and they definitely shouldn't have expected even more than what we did for them. They should be grateful for our help. This war has affected us very negatively, and now the British are treating us Americans worse than ever.
So, how would you summarize what's happening now that the war's over?
The British have been treating us incredibly unfairly since the war ended, such as by taxing us, enforcing unfair trade barriers, forcing us to quarter their soldiers, and not letting us move to the west. Resentment is starting to form between us and the British. The British are angry at us for not supporting them enough in the war, while we are scared of being pulled into another European war. American identity is starting to form, and we are differentiating ourselves from the British. If this war did anything positive, it's that it taught us colonists how to unite against a common enemy.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
So, we'd like to give Conor a big thank you. And tomorrow on the show, we will have another guest. This one, we have two more guests. One who has some radical views on the Indians and how they are normal people just like the rest of us and how they should enjoy more rights. And then another with other radical views on how America should separate from Great Britain. Thank you for watching and tune in next time.